Hey, paisans, the time has come. On the air since 2009, the independently produced, non-FCC compliant champ of video game talk podcasting. Here comes Tiger Claw Radio. Here's your host, Critical Failure.
Yes, friends, it's time for Tiger Claw Radio. I'm your host, Critical Failure. This week, we got some honest-to-goodness fan casting, we got some chiptunes, we got some video games to discuss. A lot of good stuff going on. Really excited for this week. That said, let's dive into the archives and listen to a chiptune from way back when. Gamblick with Hey Justin, What's Up Man? And that's another chiptune that was added to my chiptune files back in 2017. So I've been sitting on that one for a while. I know we've played it here on TCR a few times in the past. It's an old favorite. All right, that said, I do have some van casting, some old school van casting done this past week. So let's go there now. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Well, boys and girls, this is it. It is 4:44 p.m. on Tuesday evening or Wednesday evening. I honestly can't remember. Wednesday evening. Wow, time's going fast. I am on the way to the dentist right now, and I'm going to get one of my teeth extracted. A little baby tooth that never came out in favor of a big man tooth. So now it's been loose, and it's time to go. So I'm not going to do a whole lot of talking over the next couple days, which is going to make it extremely difficult to TCR. But that's fine. Got to play some Heroes of Hammerwatch with the boys. We did another entire run, 2 entire runs actually, back to back with Alex Swingle and Darabka and myself. It's great. So we've reached a point where we've just backslapped that game, because we did like a long, hour-long playthrough where we played all the way through it, and at the end we were like, let's go again! And Alex was like, okay, I guess. And then we played all the way through it a second time using like the boss rush mode, which is much faster, but still ultimately another playthrough. Yeah, I had a good time. So Alex's point that like from the comments we read last week was like, the magic was never there. It's just like a middle of the road game that we all play, and it's very difficult for us to find a game that we all play, and that's why we like it. Okay, yeah, that's fair. Still had fun with it though. To be clear, we played through the regular game. We didn't go through the DLC, because I bought the DLC in the last sale, like the Thanksgiving sale, and it's designed for high-level characters, so you got to beat the game multiple times to really be able to do that. So I don't know. Straight game is where it's at. It's worth picking up if you know, Christmas sales coming soon. And I think Sean had the inside dope about when that's going to start, like the 21st or 22nd or something, and it is what? It's the 8th right now. So we got a little time before the next sale. So, you know, that's cool. I'm not planning on getting a whole lot, if anything, except that, you know, I'm maintaining these 2 additional accounts now, so I'll keep my eyes open for little things, you know, for my son and daughter's account. Primarily, I got back into, but I've been playing RPG Maker again. I played RPG Maker 2003. I mean, you saw the video that came out. By the time you're listening to this, it will have been last week. And I have a bunch of old RPG Maker projects, you know, from decades ago. And I loaded up a couple games. Primarily, the game I was most interested in is a game I made called Zion Story. Just some game, whatever you think is the most stereotypical RPG Maker game, that was it. But the thing that made it special was I was making it as a collaboration with my friend Engie. And we would basically, rather than like have a coherent game, we started by making like a few just generic heroes or whatever, and then we would pass the game back and forth, just adding maps. Whenever we felt like making a map or doing a scene or something, we would put in another piece of the story. And it ended up being really disjointed, and you can't play it all the way through at this point. But what we did accomplish, I mean, there was like 100 plus maps in this game. A lot of event work, a lot of heavy, I want to say scripting, but that's not really the word when you're talking about early RPG Maker games. This was a project that took a lot of time, but I'm going through the process of porting it from Don Miguel's RPG Maker 2000 to the official RPG Maker 2000 release that you can get off of Steam. They're not the same, because the old Don Miguel one, you know, from back in around the year 2000, 2001, whenever it was, the runtime package that came with it, like the pre-made assets, they were named differently. Some are missing, some, it was unofficial. So all of the assets were different. So if you reload it in this newer program, some of the assets will be missing altogether, and some of the assets will just appear as black squares until you reopen them and direct them to what the asset is called now. So I reopened this thing and I got like a few of the core maps working, and I just got this big blanket of nostalgia. It just wrapped me up real tight. And it's a weird thing because we're talking about a program that I love to death, but there's not really anything here that I can offer to the average player, because it's really just this, what lately I've been equating RPG Maker to Dungeons and Dragons, we built some dungeons, we made some characters, and that's it. They're important to us, but anybody else would just see them as the same old dungeons and characters they've seen a million times. It's absolutely the way it is. But it was neat to see something like that, to uncover something like that we still had. I'm of the age where a lot of those types of things predate USB and predate the widespread internet, or at least the high-speed internet. So, creative projects from the 90s are just went up in smoke. I can think of a number of projects like that, even just off the top of my head, that are that way. Pinball construction set, I had a lot of stuff there that I would love to still have. Click and play, we built games from scratch, that are gone now. But these I have, and that's why I'm like, you know what? Let's take this old game and rebuild it. I don't even talk to NG a ton anymore, which kind of breaks my heart a little bit, but I still have his email address. So I dug up our old email chain from 2009. I'll let that sink in for a minute. And I was like, all right, wouldn't it be cool to forward this back to NG today with a working copy of the game that says, okay, here's my copy. I added a couple things. Let me know what you think. Talk to you in a couple days. And just have that drop like a bombshell in his email. Even if I never hear anything back, just here it is. This project never really died. It just went to sleep for a very, very long time. And that's the reason why, like, when it comes to YouTube, when it comes to my podcast, I never understood people who are like, you know what? I'm quitting YouTube. I'm quitting podcasting. I'm quitting. Because it's like, unless you're, on the echelon where you're making, you have sponsors and stuff, and then you're talking about quitting on a sponsorship level, that makes sense. But you never know if you're going to come back. You never know. So why close the door behind yourself if you're going to take, if you're going to go away for a while and get interested in something else? So that was really awesome. Also because I bought RPG Maker 2000 on Steam like a long time ago, and it was never getting used. So this gives me a reason to use my copy of RPG Maker 2000 again. I don't think I'll ever build another RPG Maker 2000 game from scratch again. I don't think. But if I ever want to work on Zion's story again, there we go. That's our M2K. Also, I like the lower end ones that are super cheap, like RPG Maker XP or whatever. The ones that like go on sale for $2 during the big sales. So that way, like, all the bros can pick it up, and then we can do something like that again if we wanted. We've done that other times in the past. There's like a Realm of Chaos game that Sean made that we all put little tiny touches on, but was really Sean's game. Kaiser, who Kaiser makes these one-room little mini games, but he holds the title of having finished developing the most RPG Maker games of the group, or games in general. So that was the thing. I did it one time, I know I mentioned this before, but I did it one time, try and build an RPG Maker Discord. I even met a couple of people who were just getting started with XP because it was on sale. XP's a couple generations old. And I was like giving them tech support and trying to figure some stuff out and stuff like that. But then when I tried to merge all the Discords together, they didn't jump ship. So that's fine. God bless them. I hope they're still making games, and I hope their projects are going well. It's a good time. One thing I wish I could do with RPG Maker that is possible, but I have never been able to successfully do it, is draw my own graphics. And I don't even mean like I wish I had the ability to draw well. I wish that I could understand like how to do like a really simple pixel art chipset sprite sheet. You know, because when I see like the room layouts of some of the games people build from scratch, from the ground up, without using any of the pre-made assets, some of the, like, I'm not going to say bad artwork, but I'm going to say some of the artwork is really primitive. And if you're making a game like RPG Maker 2000, primitive artwork can be appropriate, you know, especially if you're building something free, just a little fan hobbyist project. I think it's appropriate. So I tried it a little bit, and I couldn't make it work. And I set it aside. So I don't know. If I think it would take knowing a couple more bros that were into RPG Maker in order for me to get back to that. I know our good friend Paul Messier, the Hollowed Wanderer, he has an RPG Maker project that he's been working on. Paul, though, those of you guys who know Paul, he's more of like, he doesn't like to be amateur at anything, you know? So his is using the latest and greatest system, and he's got like a few different quirks to try and make it stand out. Like, for example, there's no traditional cash for the most part. If you want to get cash to buy items, you get like junk items like that you can sell to a scrapper, and that's how you get cash. And there's no traditional leveling via experience. You level up via quests, that sort of thing. He like looked for the pieces that are consistent in every RPG Maker game and then tried to pluck them out of his project. I've been trying to convince Paul to get on the Discord so that he could post his game and keep it up there so we can like all check it out. But he's one of these guys where it's like, hey man, I'm in 100 different Discords. I'm trying to keep this list as slim as possible. And let's face it, the Discord, the TCR Discord right now, there's a lot of fun stuff going on, but it is very much the same old gang. And then like a few other people have come in the last like couple weeks, but I don't know, man. I like it. I've been enjoying hanging out on Discord quite a lot lately. It reminds me very much of the GeoCities scene back when I was in high school, when everyone used to make these little static HTML pages. If you were really slick, then you knew how to code something in HTML, and you'd make like a really lame site with like a table-based layout so that you would have like a navigation bar and that sort of thing. But I was never that smart. I didn't know HTML. I didn't know how to make a website, you know, from scratch until it wasn't cool anymore. And then when I was older and you know, things like WordPress had come out, then I figured it out. When I was first making the jump from my blue-collar job in plumbing over to IT, I took a web design class just to see, you know, how I would take to college. It was the first class I took, was Web Design 1. And yeah, not that hard apparently, which is pretty cool. What was I talking about? Yeah, just games I played lately. So RPG Maker was a lot of fun. Every time I open RPG Maker and I get like really excited about it like this, I'm always like, man, I should make this new project that's like X, Y, and Z, you know? And of course it never happens, but it is fun to be excited and filled with creative ideas, rather than to have all of the means to be creative and no ideas come, because that sucks, man. And up until recently, that's how I felt. So that's cool. With the Christmas sale coming, all this stuff's sure to go on sale again. So if you got Steam, pay attention. Get yourself an old copy of RPG Maker. It's a good time. I found out that there's another site, like the site that you know produces these games, that where you can buy them non-Steam. So I'm looking to see if like I can get a copy of one of the really old ones from this site where you don't need Steam. That way I can put it on like my non-gaming laptop. Because that's how I built my Kolteka demo game from 10 years ago. It was on a non-gaming laptop, and I was doing it like between classes in college. And that's how I was able to buckle down and focus and get that project as far as it was, because I did not have anything to really distract me. Hang on one second, because I'm driving and I gotta be safe, man. It's the safety. All right, I'm making a left on a major road, so I gotta safely merge onto, which I haven't done on the air in, wow, pre-COVID. Oh, sweet. Yes, nice and easy. Fully mersed. I just mersed onto the highway. Or not the highway, but another a major local artery. On my way down to the dentist to get my tooth pulled. Yeah, so that's cool. So if you're listening to this and you have any interest in RPG Maker, head on over to the Discord. I set it up so that we have a channel that's just post your game, and you can only post there if you have the RPG Maker dev credential. And that's a credential that I'll give to anybody who wants it. It's just that I don't want it to be like the place where people chat. I want it to be like, all right, I'm working on my RPG Maker game, and I have a new version of it, so I'm going to go find my post and I'm going to edit it so now it shows the full version instead of the old version, that kind of thing. So it's funny. I can't help but feel the uselessness in all the work that I put into Discord, but I really do enjoy it. I think Discord is a lot of fun. I think the phone integration is super cool. Being able to pop into the Discord and see what's what. Come on, yeah. There we go. Always let people in traffic if you can. Does a little something for you that's good. Can't quite explain it. Makes me feel good. I don't know where I was going with that. Maybe I said what I wanted to say. I got the firmware on my Ambernic juiced up. I finally finished that whole process, and I gotta say, like, I'm still in the process of porting BIOS over for various systems, so I can't play everything. But now I can do some things on it that, like, I knew that it had the horsepower to do, but it wasn't doing. Like, Commodore 64 support is very, very good. I can do Commodore 64 stuff now, which is great. Pico 8. The firmware just had the Pico 8 reader right out of the gate. I think it was called, like, Tico 8 or something like that. So you can't build the games, but you can load the games and play them on the go, which is great, because that way it's like... it would be fun to have access to the builder or whatever, but this is actually like a legal thing. Like, they've made this like done with the blessing of the developer, of the developing team. It doesn't violate the license, which is cool, because we're not talking about a Nintendo or a Sega or something like that. We're talking about a tiny little company. This is Lexalawful Games, who made Voxatron, and they made a few fun games I liked 10 years ago that are now like discontinued. Like, they don't have them on their website anymore. They had a game called Zen Puzzle Garden that I really enjoyed. Top-down puzzle game where you play as a monk raking the sand in a Zen garden, and you have to rake the entire Zen garden, and you can't cross over yourself, so you have to kind of plot a course, and it's a fun little game. Not super hard, but it's a good time. That was one. Also, Voxatron was pretty good. That was in one of the very early Humble Bundles before Humble Bundle got bought out and became, what it is today. So this is a company that, I want them to do well. I actually paid the $15 for the Pico 8 license. And if you like simple games, I would say it's absolutely worth it. I had a great time with it. So I'm excited to put some of those onto my Ambernic. The problem is this. I still think the V90 is infinitely more comfortable. The Ambernic is not super comfortable to play. At least this compact model. So it sucks because I'm broke now. But I would really like to save my pennies and get a nicer Ambernic. I don't even need more horsepower. I just need one that feels better in my hands. Like maybe
What's the one that's like the same power but not compact? Like the 300, RG300 or something like that. It's like 1 year old, and in the handheld market, that's like 3 generations, which is weird. I might just want to get one of those. There we go. We made it now. But that's a ways off, you know. Christmas has taken its toll, and I think there is something to be said for looking at your toys and making the exercising the discipline to be satisfied with your toys and not have to go out and buy new things. You know what I mean? Just because shiny new thing exists. I know shiny new thing exists, but the second shiny new thing comes into the mail, then it just turns into thing. And, you know, so satisfaction in your possessions isn't, requires exercising discipline. So that's what I'm going to do right now. And that's pretty sweet. So video games, huh? Video games in Christmas time. Oh, speaking of video games in Christmas time, and Commodore 64. So one of the things this Ambernet can do now is play Commodore 64 games, which I know the V90 could do it, but now the significance is I can go from like playing Final Fantasy IX on PlayStation and then switch over to a C64 game on the same machine. But now that it can do that, as it turns out, I think it's called Badger Punch Games, the company that is making the Rogue 64 that I've been keeping track of. They made a game called Showdown a while back that I bought for $1. Well, they just made it free. So now it's free, whereas it wasn't before. And they have a Christmas version of it called Snowdown, where instead of 2 cowboys shooting each other, it's 2 Santas throwing snowballs at each other. And that's also free. So I was super happy to get a copy of Snowdown for my Ambernick. Because when you're out of money, brother, independent developers to the rescue. You know what I'm saying? It's all about the freeware. I've got strong roots in the freeware biz. Give me a second, because I'm behind I don't know if I can get around this guy. I'm behind a bus, a city bus, and we're on like a main road, so they got a lot of stops, so that could be a problem. But we've been going for about 22 minutes, and I'm pretty close to the dentist, and I really don't... Oh, is this my right? I think it might be. No, it isn't. All right, I'm going to jump off of here because I need to focus on driving. But this was good. This was good times. Video games. Hope everyone's doing good out there. Merry Christmas. And I'll see you back in the studio.
Back again in the studio. That's right. I had a tooth taken out. Yeah, I got that great big needle that they stuck in my face. It was awesome, man. It was a good time. Back again in the studio. All right. We're over the 20-minute mark. We're sitting at about 28 and a half minutes. So this is the part of the show where I like to thank the sponsors, because this is, in fact, a Patreon-sponsored program. Believe it or not, after all these years, we still have a few people hanging on. So I like to read their names off sort of in a hall of distinguished gentlemen here on Tiger Claw Radio, and they are Hemrock, Techmoballs, Dorabka, and Eric Controller. Thank you guys so much for keeping the lights on and keeping us coming back week after week. Shall we do another chiptune? Let's do another one. I'm going to head over to Battle of the Bits. We'll see what's going on down there. Let's play something new, not something from 2017. And I can't. Yeah, Battle of the Bits is currently down due to capacity issues or routine server maintenance, either one. So back to the archives we go. Let's see what we have here. I realize this is not the chiptune special, but I was looking through my 2017 chiptunes. This is from, back when I used to go to chipmusic.org, and I would sort of individually build like an archive that would be played here on the air. And I haven't done that method in a while, so my folder of like local chiptunes I can play that I fall back on in situations like this got a lot of old stuff in it. And I was just flipping through it while I was off the air, and I found something. I think I might have played this on the air once back when I got it originally. And it's not necessarily like the coolest song ever, but it's the Nintendo 64 or Super Mario 64 theme, but on a Sega. What does the file name say? Yeah, but on Sega. And I think it's Neato Torpedo. Stick with us. We're going to give it a listen. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. So we're back in the studio recording again. This is now Thursday. It's been a couple days since the first half of the show. And I think this is going to be a big change in TCR because I was thinking this past week how I'm going to handle it with my schedule changing and finding time to record. I think TCR is going to move from a Monday release to an end of the week release. With more details once I have it laid out, but the idea is my recording time, instead of being on the weekend, because that time is eaten up by my children, it'll be a little bit each day of the week, and then at the end of the week it'll come out. And that's how we'll get TCR recording regularly again, because I really liked the first half of the show that we got down so far. Just ran out of time, so I couldn't finish it. But anyway, that said, let's go back to the fail bag and see some of the comments and questions that we have. Because this is, in fact, this is a small little thing. This is just me and you here. I have no delusions that one day I will be the famous internet man. I just like hanging around and talking about games, and running this podcast allows me to do that. So bear with me. I'm going to pop open my email. I believe, did I get something from Hemrock this past week? Late night audio comment. That was on the 5th. We talked about that. He put some stuff in the Discord. Right. That was how we did it this past time. Give me a second here. Let's just pause this real quick. How's that? Did we take care of the fuzz? We had some fuzz. Let's see if that's any better. So here's a question for you. how many of you maintain Epic Games accounts, right, with the Epic Games Store? Because it's a common point of conversation that they give away a free game every week or whatever it is. And I have maintained that collection for a good while, but I don't think I know I've never spent money on the Epic Store, and I don't think I've ever actually sat down and played something from that account. The last one, which was retired today, was Prison Architect. I wanted to try that game because it has Larry Lawton in it, and I watch him on YouTube a lot. But that was pretty cool to see that given out. And today they rolled out Shenmue 3, which I didn't play the beloved Shenmue games from back in the day. But this seems like a great way to try it, because it's free and it's a game I would be interested in seeing. So I snapped that up. One thing that's different about this particular instance is if you want Shenmue 3, it's only up for 1 day, okay? Starting on the 16th, ending on the 17th. So make sure you get it if you have any interest. But how many of you actually maintain accounts and collect these games? And is there anyone listening who maintains an Epic account who has at any time like installed one of these games and like given it a go? Because I went as far as to install I installed the client once, but I never actually played anything in it. I remember because I wanted to play that game Fez. Do you remember Fez? But I never wanted to buy it even on sale because Phil Fish just rubbed me the wrong way. Even though like I know he was like a hate meme, you know, like it was something he was doing on purpose. I couldn't pay money for it because I didn't like where it was going. So they gave it away on Epic early in the Epic Store life cycle, and I picked it up. And that's been, I don't know how long it's been, but it's, you know, still not, I still haven't installed it and run it. But I am thankful for Discord, because over on Discord, I found a bot that runs like a bulletin system where it'll dump out, okay, this is what the latest free game is, and this is how long it's going to be free. And you can attach it to your account by going to the browser without actually having to open or install the weirdo Epic Games Launcher. Epic Games still has it has the Scott Pilgrim versus the World game, and I'm pretty sure, I haven't looked it up on Steam, but I'm pretty sure that's the only place that has it. So I don't know, for better or for worse, it is a thing that does exist. But that said, I popped into Discord because I wanted to head over to the fail bag. So let's see what we have. The Analog Pocket is finding its way to consumers. This is something that Hemrock posted, and he says, if you want the Lamborghini of Game Boys, well, here you go. And they did one of these for the Super Nintendo a while back, where it was high quality, not an emulation machine per se, not something you can load ROMs onto. It's still, you collect the cartridges and put them in, and there it is. And how much is this thing going for? Let me actually pop this open and take a look so I can get a price, because it's guaranteed to be, $220. That's gonna be a yikes from me, man. I could see, like, that's a price point where this better be the system that you play. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if this is your system and this is how you spend your nights, I could see going diesel and putting money into it. But there's so few of us that, you know, there's so few of us that even play Game Boy games. I don't know, man. There's also, if I can dig it up, I'll put it in the chat, but there was some issues with the, like when you put a cartridge in it, it doesn't have to go that far. So there have been issues with them falling out and like touching the console wrong, and they sort of like freeze up. So I don't know how accurate that is. I don't know if that's a one-off account, but I can tell you I saw some video of that happening. So, you know, it is what it is. And if it were any other system, I wouldn't think twice about it because things happen. However, this is a $220 Game Boy. So it's like, yo, you better work, son. Because not even if I don't want to buy it myself, any, you know, pal out there who buys one of these things, I feel for these people. they should get their $220 Game Boy. So that is, once again, that is a thing that exists. I am less getting into the hardware collecting, so this appeals to me a little less, but I do appreciate that they've made it. Game Boy cartridges are a wonderful thing, and I can see Metal Jesus brushing on this topic on his video, that there is the GB Studio, right, which is a thing. So new games are getting developed, as well as LSDJ. The Game Boy is a good source of chiptune music. It was more so back in the 8BC days, but it's still a thing. People still use it every once in a while. So yeah, that's a thing. Personal opinion, gloves off, being 100% real. I would say get what is this thing called? The V90. Get a V90 instead. And if you really want to play cartridges, the GB Boy looks good, but I don't have one myself. So yeah, thanks for sharing the link, Hemrock, and that is a thing. And now that I have YouTube open, let's pop over to the YouTube studio and see what comments the YouTube overlords will allow me to read. And while this loads, we went up 6 subscribers in the last 28 days. Why are you here? I'm terribly sorry, everyone, for wasting your time. But here we go. Uncheck ones I haven't responded to. I did a couple RPG Maker videos over the last week. Those were fun. I enjoyed doing that. And okay, so Hemrock says, that Hemrock guy is so repetitive. I remember you talking about putting together a Genesis package for your boy. Sad he doesn't appreciate it. In regards to the website similar to TikTok, are you thinking of Vines? Yes, it was Vines. I remember seeing quite a few Vines that I enjoyed. Mechamena says, it makes you wonder why a site like TikTok and Vines, why a site like TikTok survives and Vines doesn't. Does TikTok pay licensing fees for all the copyrighted music and its users add to their vids? I don't remember music being a Vine though. I didn't really come across those embedded into articles like those TikTok vids. You have a good point, but I guess I didn't think that deeply into it. You start talking about how it survives with licensing. It's like, all right, I don't use the site enough to scratch the surface that deep. But I mean, I guess they're good questions. Thanks for checking in, Hamrock. Good to hear from you, brother. And then we got a Mecha Menace. And this is one that he left 9 days ago on the episode 412. He says, you don't like being affected by censorship, yet you declined to read my full comment on last week's TCR. The way I understand your comments here on China's control over several industries is hypocritical to the way you don't want to engage in conversation of how our friends in Europe, like the Beast, are in a troubling situation due to increasing regulations. They were my comments, not yours. Anyone listening to TCR heard you state that you were reading Mecha's WOM's, what's on my shelf's comments. So let's talk a little bit about that. You raise a good point. However, I would like to point out, I did not try to pretend your comments didn't exist. I did not delete them, nor did I say, you can't talk about that stuff. I merely said, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole on the air at that particular time. And the reason why was because we're hanging out, we're talking about good things. I'm trying to keep the vibe light. And yes, the things you're talking about are real. Yes, these are real concerns that they have issues in Europe, especially in Germany. We can get Sean on and he can tell us about them, because I can guarantee you he knows far more about it than me. But I didn't want the discussion to turn into a topic that's surrounded by barbed wire fences. And that's a little different from censorship, because I didn't try and remove or quiet down your opinion. I was just like, let's not go down this rabbit hole. And by the way, if you're interested to hear what he's talking about, it's still up. Pop back to the TCR 411, and there's a back and forth there that you can definitely read. And I would read it on the air now at this point, because whatever, but I just don't have it in front of me. Maybe we'll do a dedicated video where we talk about German vaccination / lockdown politics, because that's something. This is another reason why I didn't want to get into it. I don't know anything about any of that stuff. I don't know anything about it. So I can't tell who's full of crap and who isn't. I can't tell what's real and what isn't. And that's a dangerous place to be, especially when you're talking about all the like the COVID reaction and how people are dealing with it and what's happening, because a lot of people are really passionate about this stuff, and if you're going to choose a side on in anything related to that, for better or for worse, you better know what you're talking about. Better at least have a real formulated opinion. Even just talking about video games, that's something I've been criticized about. You just kind of gloss over things. You don't really formulate a real opinion. You just say thing exists and that's it. Yeah, so if that being the case, let's stay away from something that sensitive. Just to reiterate, my differential between censorship and not reading on the air is I didn't try and quiet you down or pretend your comments didn't exist. They are still there to this day. By the way, any comments that get removed from YouTube, from the Tiger Claw Radio comment section, none of that is my doing. I do not remove comments. If you go back far enough in time, like 10 years ago, I do remember deleting a comment or two. But these days, at least as long as TCR has been on YouTube, you can trash me in the comments and it's A-okay. I won't delete it. We might not get along if that's the case, but I'm not going to try and this guy doesn't agree with me. Let's delete and ban, and no, it defeats the purpose. I would much rather get into a mudslinging match. That's far more entertaining. Mecha Menace, my good friend, for whom I don't always agree. I'm always appreciative that you pop in and drop in your 2 cents. Live well, be healthy, be happy, so that we can argue bitterly tomorrow. Desm 101 says, I think the Retron 5 is okay for an emulation console. It's similar to the Polymega, which both have a neat approach as alternatives to using real hardware or FPGA consoles. I do own a Hyperkin NES SoC, and it works pretty good aside from incompatible games like Castlevania 3. Personally, I've been spending my dough on either ODE options for my old consoles or using FPGA consoles like AVS and Super NT. That's a lot of abbreviations that I don't know what they are, brother. I also keep my hacked PS TV connected to my big TV for most of my emulation needs. That's okay. What is FPGA? I'm just going to come out and say it because I have a tendency to hear something like that and just kind of nod along and pretend I know what you're talking about. But I would rather be the dumb guy and actually learn something. So what is FPGA? It sounds like you've thought this out far more than me. Me being for the most part a PC guy. A lot of these things, hardware solutions, that sort of stuff. It's an extra layer of figuring things out that I just don't do. So that's cool. Here's another idea, Desm. You do a YouTube channel. How about a nice updated Battle Station video, right? When's the last time you did one of those? I'll have to check in and see if you have one from the last year or something. Good to hear from you, brother. And by the way, everybody out there who isn't familiar with Desm, this is a guy who does YouTube and is worth watching. He's one of the few, the proud, the YouTubers, as it were. Thanks for checking in, man. Then we have a couple comments related to the RPG Maker videos. I've been messing with RPG Maker 2003 over the last week. Hamroxus, thanks for making this video, mate. Where do you get new assets? Nice touch with the beach. And then he has some time signatures. Awesomeness, lulls, there's got to be a bridge, and don't look at me. In addition to fences, at least one village must have a well, preferably one that you can enter and explore. I've got RPG Maker 2003 installed. Now I need to make some time to play. So let's talk a little bit about this. RPG Maker 2003, of all the RPG Maker games, with the exception of maybe the console games, this is the one I'm having the hardest time finding materials for. So if you want alternative sprites, alternative chipsets, unless you get lucky, you're going to have to draw them yourself. There used to be sites where you could find these things, but this is very old internet, like Internet 1.0 or whatever, so you weren't going to find them on a central repository. You would find them on Jeff's RPG Maker GeoCities website, and here are a couple of chipsets I've come across. And a lot of those sites are gone. And I found posts where it's like, hey, yeah, here's 2 really great sites for RPG Maker 2003 resources, and you go to them and they're both gone. So that's a thing. So we went back and forth on the Discord, and you were, I think, drawing your own, if I remember right. So you should be made in the shade. But just know that even making my little RPG Maker 2003 hobby project, I've run into that problem where it's like, I wanted to just put in a couple of things, a couple of little things that are, maybe outside the what's included basic, and it just ended up being too much trouble. So for my little demo RPG Maker 2003 game, I'm 100%, not 100%, but I'm mostly stuck within the pack-in assets, with the exception of I created a title screen and I'm creating a game over screen, because those are pretty easy to do yourself. But I have not successfully been able to find anything outside of MIDI files out on the internet that I can sub into my RPG Maker 2003 game. That's a good reason to trade up when building an RPG Maker game, even if you're only going to trade up a little bit. Use RPG Maker XP is a pretty good one, or VX. People like VX Ace because that's the same engine with a bunch of extra things, except that the original VX consequently went all the way down to $5. So for $5, that's a really good RPG Maker engine. Just some food for thought if you ever wanted to collab. Let's see, Retroactive. Those of you who don't remember Kevin, I like that guy because he was one of the RDub force back on my brief run on Retroware TV, and he was the one guy that site actually picked up once they shut the RDub force down. So he had a legit run over there for a good while. He writes, "This takes me back. I remember learning how to set events, making sprites, and then never doing anything ever again." Yeah, thinking back, some of the concepts needed to do some of the really cool things in RPG Maker, they weren't difficult to click around and do, but the core concepts, I think I had a really tough time with. Stuff that I can fly through now, like storing the X and Y location into variables of the hero at any given time, and that sort of thing. I didn't know how to do that back then. Gaming Beast says, "I told you already when we hung out that GOG has invisibility mode, but now we can hide in our retro shame box. I'll get Dead by Daylight and Quake Horde mode installed for us to game. Also hyped for the new River City Ransom hacks. Either way, good episode, man." Yeah, good to hear from you. Thanks for that. It is worth saying that I recorded that before we hung out, so I had not yet heard about the invisibility mode. Quake Horde mode is awesome. Get that installed so we can play it. Dead by Daylight, I am not going to say it's awesome, but I still enjoy it. I played it with Swingle, and we played a couple of times before. He played it with me 2 or 3 rounds once, and then uninstalled it, and I've gone back to it once or twice since then. It's still a fun game, I think, but it hasn't really changed in any meaningful way. So, you play it, it'll get old, and then you can be done with it. And the amount of time it takes to install it and get it running, I don't think matches the amount of interest that it holds. But, whatever, it's still a good little game. I enjoy it. Eric Controller writes, "I love how the default music and sound effects are like slaps in the face. Wakes you up in the morning." Yeah, that's because of the way I had the recording mixed in that video. It's if you drop the volume down just a little bit, like the system volume, and I were to boost my vocals, then it's actually much more reasonable. All right, what are we doing? I got another couple minutes to record. We got Chuck Johnson, who doesn't check in very often, but has been around a long time. "I need to get in contact with NG as well, but I do agree with you regarding the transferring of work between computers. Kabuki was in development hell for years." By the way, quick break from the comment. Kabuki is his commercial RPG Maker game, which I believe is still available if you want to go check it out. I started working on it in RM2K/RM2K3, but restarted the project in VX Ace back in 2015. That's brutal. I also ended up getting a new computer backing up my project to an external hard drive and reinstalling VXAce with my project on there. I agree with you regarding music files using MIDI files. I don't know if VXAce and future installments support it. I think that we know that using WAV files for songs should make the file way too big. OGG files are acceptable to me. Only problem, I don't know what app to make will make me write MIDI files anyway. In my humble opinion, I do prefer actual chiptunes. That's right, you are a chiptune composer, aren't you? I'm not 100% sure how to produce MIDI files that way either. In FL Studio, I can produce a MIDI file, but more along the vein of this is music data that you can attach a VST to and that sort of thing. So if I looked at it, maybe I could figure it out, but that'd be a lot of additional work to try and go back a generation in terms of music production. So I don't think I'm going to do that. I think if I'm going to go that hard into it, we're going to be using OGG or MP3. Yeah, and I left him a text comment similar to that. I said, yeah, definitely. Do it, man. Let's get some collab going. I talked about this a little bit, but what are you... do you still have VXAce, or did you go to MV? Like, if you were to sit down and make it just for fun, little RPG Maker game right now, even if you didn't finish it, just to play an RPG Maker, what would be your go-to system? Let me know. W Hero Team checks in. This is a young guy who asked for some technical support back in the day. Thanks for helping me with my game a while back. I haven't worked on it for a while. I even got RPG Maker MV to help with the add-ons and such for different battles. I was wondering if you could help for different characters to have different fonts and voice acting, and how to do those two things. Right, I was going to make a video about that. The short answer is you just use a text code when you're typing out your text. It's like /C and then a number in brackets, and then it'll make the following text, whatever that color is. As for voice acting, you just need to learn how to use WAV file sound effects. That's all voice acting is. And then hire people on Fiverr to produce WAV files of them talking. And then when, instead of just roll text, it would play sound effect, then roll text. And there you go, there's your voice acting. I think that'd be a fun little video. I could use like a Sonic the Hedgehog voice box and get him to say some ridiculous things. Be some fun there. Light Studios, good old Sendu, man. That's awesome to hear from you, brother. He says, looks so simple, but many ways to get stuck. You're right. You're right. You're really right. The second you start overthinking it, you're right there in the quicksand. Right there in the quicksand. This was just a simple little project that I was like, hey, this is fun. We'll just make a game. And I have already found myself doing that with this little unnamed RPG Maker thing, or I guess Awesome Quest is what I'm calling it right now. And finally, we got one from Flavored Wallpaper who says, yeah, V90 is my standard for pre-PS1 games. I use my RG350 for PS1 games. The RG350 is obviously the better device, but the V90 is by far the best bang for your buck. I got that thing for like 30-something, while the 350 is more than double the price. Awesome, cute device for a great price. Yeah, pretty cool. Speaking of which, so that's on the 280V versus the Powkiddy V90 video. I just looked it up. The 280V, you can get that for $60 now. I got that for $90. So I don't know, like maybe if you have smaller hands, or like if you're a younger person, it might really work for you. Like I really want to like that thing because the things it can do technologically are awesome, truly. And the size is also very awesome. It just my big hands can't play it for very very long. And that's the end of the fail bag. So the question is, we made it past the hour mark. So yeah, I think that might be just about it for TCR for this week. Hey, you know what that sound means? That's TCR for the week. Thanks so much for being patient and for hanging in there. I think henceforth we're going to be a Friday show. So next week, keep an eye open for us on Friday, and I'll just spend the entire week leading up to then recording whenever I can, doing whatever I can. And speaking of doing whatever you can, I want you to keep doing whatever you can to keep getting out of bed in the morning and doing whatever you can do. Because that's really what this all is all about, is just some good vibes that you can take with you and to keep hitting at those responsibilities, because they're not going to go away, but they don't have to beat you either. Take care of yourself. This is Critical Failure for Tiger Claw Radio. I'll see you next week.